Today, it's Monday, the 13th of October, and for the next hour, we go through all of the latest and greatest from the world of AI to keep everyone up to speed in what's happening with technology. And maybe you'll learn a thing or two about what's possible, how you can apply some tools, and all the latest news. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into the first story, which is the biggest one of the weekend. And that is from Thinking Machines. Now, Thinking Machines was an AI startup led by the former OpenAI CTO, Mira Murati, and unfortunately, it's lost one of its co-founders. So here is the main story covered by TechCrunch. Thinking Machines Lab co-founder Andrew Tullock heads to Meta. It's lost one of its co-founders, and the Wall Street Journal reports that AI researcher co-founder announced his departure to employees in the message on Friday. A Thinking Machine Labs spokesperson confirmed Tullock's departure to the Wall Street Journal, saying he has decided to pursue a different path for personal reasons. We'll get onto those personal reasons potentially in a moment. Back in August, the Wall Street Journal reported that Mark Zuckerberg's aggressive AI recruiting blitz included an offer to acquire Thinking Machines Lab, and when it failed, Zuckerberg reportedly tried to lure Tullock with a compensation package that could have been worth up to $1.5 billion over at least 6 years. At the time, a Meta spokesperson said that the Wall Street Journal's description of the offer was inaccurate and ridiculous. Okay, so it's a fairly punchy offer. So initially, Zuck tried to buy the whole thing. This is OpenAI co-founder Mira Murati, and this is her new lab, a new startup. It's got a lot of funding, and Zuck tried to buy the whole thing, including all the staff. When that failed, he's gone after one of the co-founders. That failed, but it looks like he's won him over at some point. Now, it's not to go unnoticed that Tullock actually worked in Meta previously for 11 years. This wasn't just like a random poach out of nowhere. He worked in Meta, then went to OpenAI, then went to Thinking Machines, and is now returning to Meta with Zuck. Rumors are that the offer is up to $3 billion, but I guess we're not going to find out. But we know that OpenAI pay good money. We know that Thinking Machines pay good money. We know Zuckerberg pays the best money. So this could be a case of getting poached. The personal reasons might be financial. It might be otherwise. We don't know. But all we know is Thinking Machines co-founder Andrew Tullock has head to Meta. Next story, Instagram head Adam Mosseri pushes back on Mr. Beast's AI fears, but admits society will have to adjust. So Mr. Beast was talking about how he worries about the AI-generated content at the moment and how this is going to change for creators. And looks like Adam has a slightly different view. It says, Instagram head Adam Mosseri said AI will change who can be creative, as the new tools and technology will give people who couldn't be creators before the ability to produce content at certain quality and scale. However, he also admitted that bad actors will use the technology for nefarious purposes. That's obviously the case. And the kids growing up today will have to be taught that you can't believe something just because you saw a video of it. So now with Sora and with these AI models, you can actually create entirely lifelike videos that you would not actually be able to tell if they're real or not. It's just because we're living through this period. We know that can happen. We now suspect everything to be fake by default rather than being real by default. The Meta exec shares his thoughts on how AI impacting the creator industry at Bloomberg Screen Time conference this week. At the interview start, he was asked to address the recent comments from creator Mr. Beast, Jimmy Donaldson, on Threads. Mr. Beast has suggested that AI-generated videos could soon threaten creators' livelihoods and said it was scary times for the industry. I'd say, yeah, it's a fair comment. But Mosseri pushed back a little of that idea, noting that most creators won't be using AI technology to reproduce what Mr. Beast has historically done with his huge sets and elaborate productions. Instead, it will allow creators to do more and make better content. This was a quote. If you take a big step back, what the internet did, among other things, was allow almost anyone to become a publisher by reducing the cost of distribution content to essentially zero. And what some of these generative AI models look like they're going to do is they're going to reduce the cost of producing content to basically zero too. This, of course, does not reflect true financial, environmental, and human costs of using AI, which are substantial according to TechCrunch, obviously depending on what production you read, then they're going to side with a different impact of this whole scenario. But story for another day. Said, in addition, the exec suggested there's already a lot of hybrid content on today's big social platforms where creators are using AI in the workflow, but not producing fully synthetic content. For instance, they might be using AI tools for color corrections or filters. Going forward, Mosseri said the line between what's real and what's AI generated will become even more blurred. And this is very apparent. With Sora, you can put your likeness in, you can get videos of you doing different things with other people, and there's a high chance no one's going to be able to tell exactly what's real and exactly what isn't real. It's going to be a little bit less like what is organic content and what is AI, synthetic content and what the percentages are. I think we're going to be actually more in the middle than pure synthetic content for a while, he said. So yeah, interesting story. I think he's not actually fully agreeing with Mr. Beast, but there are quite a lot of concerns with the general impact of it. You need to actually figure out or teach your children to, and maybe parents, grandparents, to by default not believe what you're seeing on screen, because it's a high chance it's going to be AI generated. So default distrust rather than default trust. Okay, next story. Apple nears a deal to acquire talent and technology from computer vision startup Prompt AI. Apple is nearing a deal to acquire engineers and the technology from Prompt AI, an early stage startup focused on computer vision. Prompt's founders include Tete Zhao, an AI researcher with a PhD in computer science from UC Berkeley, and Trevor Darnell, founder of Berkeley AI Research Lab. Prompt investors will likely get some money back, but won't be made whole in the deal. Not ideal. Executive said in an all-hands meeting on Thursday. So yeah, one of these like weird acqui-hire type acquisitions or buyouts. So here is the full story from CNBC. Apple is in late stage talks to acquire top talent from computer vision startup Prompt AI, as well as the company's technology. Leadership told Prompt employees that of the pending transaction in an all-hands meeting on Thursday, said those who don't end up joining Apple will be paid a reduced salary and encouraged to apply for other roles at the company, according to audio that was accessed by CNBC. The 11-person company was approached by other potential suitors, including Elon Musk's XAI and Neuralink, execs said in the meeting. So in total, Prompt was founded in 2023, raised 5 million seed, and they didn't respond for comments exactly. Investor will get paid back some money, but won't be made whole. So it looks like, yeah, there's going to be snapping up in these acqui-hire type deals. It says, yeah, some of these big deals is similar to what happened with Scale AI, obviously on a much reduced figure, and also the $2.4 billion deal for the Windsurf CEO and leaders of those teams, including license fees too. So yeah, Apple is still trying to acquire people to improve what seems like Apple Intelligence, which is currently lagging behind a lot of these AI labs currently, but maybe don't give up on them quite yet. Hopefully they're going to catch up. This is going to be integrated into some of Apple's HomeKit, smart home division. So yeah, maybe don't rule them out quite yet, but yeah, nice little acquisition for Prompt AI. Interesting story here. China's Darwin monkey is the world's largest brain-inspired supercomputer. Darwin monkey, or Wukong, features over 2 billion artificial neurons and more than 100 billion synapses, similar to the neural structure of a macaque. So China, obviously cooking in a lot of different ways. They're most famous for, at the moment, all their open source AI models like DeepSeek, etc., Qwen, and Kimi, Moonshot. Why not? They're doing some good stuff over there. Scientists in China unveiled a supercomputer built on a brain-like architecture, specifically that of a monkey. It has put it on roughly on par, 100 billion synapses, roughly on par with the neural structure of a macaque. The researchers hope it will serve as a simulation tool for neuroscientists while also providing a stepping stone towards AGI, systems that possess human-like intelligence and reasoning. So, unlike traditional artificial intelligence networks, which follow classical computing principles and process data via continuously changing binary values, Darwin monkey are derived by spiking neural networks. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but we've actually seen a lot of these, or not a lot, there was a couple more of these efforts actually where you can rent out inference, or you can use inference actually on, I think, human brain tissue, which actually grew, and that you can use it, which is quite. And I think the reason for doing something like this is potentially there's a lot less energy used in that actual tissue, biological tissue. But yeah, this is one really interesting story coming out of China. China's Darwin monkey, the first world's large brain inspired supercomputer. Okay, Sora now. This is a crazy story too in here. Mark Cuban leverages AI videos on Sora for free advertising. And he says, so far it's worked out great. So if you remember, I don't know if you saw last week, Jake Paul did something similar. We'll cover it in a minute. But basically what this does is if you upload your profile or you create a profile on Sora, OpenAI's new video generation app, you can then hit a toggle which enables other people to cameo you in their videos. So now you can tag Mark Cuban and create videos with him. So he's obviously toggled that on, and he says so far it's worked out great. Here is the full story. Entrepreneur Mark Cuban is utilizing Sora, OpenAI's social media platform, to his advantage. He has permitted users to create AI videos featuring him, which in turn serves as free advertisements for his pharmaceutical company, Cost Plus Drugs. Cuban granted permission last Thursday for Sora users to generate AI videos featuring him. This unprecedented move by the prominent public figure has led to a flood of Cuban-themed videos on Sora. The intriguing part is that each video featuring Cuban also doubles as a promotional tool for Cost Plus Drug. So this is his company trying to get drug prices down all over in America, and he's doing that from his company Cost Plus Drugs. This is just like a top of funnel awareness play for that, and it seems to be working out pretty well. Here is a quote. It says, I was just curious what people would come up with, and I wanted to experiment with a plug for costplusdrugs.com. So far, it's worked out great. I wonder if he's actually put in some custom instructions to say any video generated of me has to include a plug for Cost Plus Drugs, because you can do that. You can say every video I need to be wearing a black t-shirt or a black hat. Obviously, this t-shirt isn't black, but you know what I mean. And then anybody else who generates a video, that prompt goes in and the video takes it into account when generating video. So I haven't actually got access to Sora yet, but it'd be interesting to see if that's the case. The videos which portray Cuban delivering catchy phrases about Cost Plus Drugs or exhibiting dance moves has amassed tens of thousands of views. And then there was an interview on TVPN on Friday with Sam Altman and Bill Peebles, who's head of Sora at OpenAI, discuss this innovative advertising strategy. It's a bit of a paradigm shift, actually, by allowing users to create content featuring him. Cuban not only engages with his audience on a personal level, but also promotes his business without any additional advertising costs. This strategy could potentially usher in a new era of AI-driven advertising, like user-generated content. This is ideal because you don't actually have to film it yourself. You can just lend your likeness, enter a prompt, and it gets generated. I think there's another actual stat from Bill who said 70% of users on Sora are currently generating content. So you have this split where in traditional terms, most users consume and then a tiny percent of users actually create. Now, it seems like on Sora, 70% of people are actually creating, which is insane. But yeah, that's a good strat from Mark Cuban. Another piece of this story was Jake Paul. This was the post. People have been asking me, Jake, why are all these AI videos of you on the internet? There's a method to the madness, he says. I'm a proud OpenAI investor through Antifund and Jeffrey Wu. I've been advising the Sora team, Mark Chen and Bill Peebles this year, and agreed to become the first celebrity NIL Cameo user. And from there, things went crazy. In my 6 days, my Cameo has generated 1 billion plus views thanks our App Archive for the data. Congrats to the Sora team on a great product and making their internet fun again, Sama and OpenAI. So here's the chart for these views. So Jake Paul did exactly the same. He created a Sora account, created his likeness, and then anybody can create a video with Jake Paul. These videos created with him created 6,500 videos, 1 billion views, and an earned media value totaling around $57 million, just from being able, enabling other people to use your likeness on Sora. So if you're thinking about this from a marketing point of view, maybe start thinking about how you can do this with either your likeness or your boss's likeness or the head of marketing's likeness or an account manager's likeness. But yeah, Jake Paul, the king of the attention economy, broke 1 billion views in 6 days on Sora. And some positive comments down here too. Yeah, that's a really cool story. Rishi Sunak takes advisory roles with Microsoft and AI firm Anthropic. This was coming at the recent AI Safety Summit, I think. Here is a story from the BBC. He's taken up these advisory roles at tech giant Microsoft and artificial intelligence startup Anthropic. The former Prime Minister, who remains the MP for Richmond and Northallerton, said he was delighted to be working with two of the world's leading tech firms and plans to donate his earnings to a charity he founded. Okay. Sunak has been told he must not lobby ministers on behalf of the companies by the Advisory Committee on Business Appointments, an independent watchdog which oversees the activities of former government figures. During his premiership, he made tech regulation a significant priority, setting up an AI Safety Summit in 2013. He also hosted a lot of things. He did one prominent one at Bletchley Park. I think Elon was there and other key figures, which he was very, very pro AI. So he actually did some good stuff on that front. The watchdog said it has been informed by Sunak that his part-time advisory role at Anthropic, an AI firm seeking to compete with companies like OpenAI, Google, and Meta, would be akin to operating as a small or as an internal think tank. Akobus said Anthropic has a significant interest in UK government policy. Okay, we can see where the potential wires can get crossed here, or the waters may get muddied, meaning that Sunak's appointment could potentially have been seen to offer unfair access and influence. We know how all these things work. The appointment with Microsoft, a major investor in the UK, also presented similar issues. Okay. He says Sunak was told not to advise on bidding for UK contracts or lobby the government for 2 years from his last day of ministerial office. Okay, if anyone needs me, I'll be in Yorkshire, he says. But yeah, Rishi Sunak, he's actually very pro AI. This is his quote. I've long believed that technology will transform our world and play a key part in determining our future. We stand on the edge of a technological revolution whose impacts will be as profound as those of the Industrial Revolution and felt more quickly. 100%. So yeah, kudos to Rishi. And we'll see what stuff he can do there. Really interesting chart here. This is shared from Pedro Domingos. And this was a chart from the Financial Times. It says ChatGPT went from 0 to almost 800 million users in just over 2 years. And the internet took 13 years to reach 800 million users. So the quote here was, 1 AI year is 7 internet ones. Now, there's obviously some things kind of wrong with this whole adoption curve because ChatGPT wouldn't have been possible without the internet, etc. And the uptake of apps and the distribution possible to get ChatGPT to 800 million users is now possible because of said internet. But this is just a reflection to show how fast AI is moving. ChatGPT has only been around almost 3 years. Sorry, this is closer to 3 years than it is 2, but it's going vertical on most charts, like data center usage, inference, number of users, capabilities, medical discoveries. Everything is kind of vertical thanks to AI. And there's a funny reply here. AI is measured in dog years. Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, the reply here, ask ChatGPT for internet users ratio versus internet computer users for the first 5 years. Seems to be fairly similar. Another post. Can't tell if AI people are this stupid or just pushing propaganda. So yeah, a couple of pushbacks on that one. Okay, crazy story here from Nathan Calvin. This is a bit strange. One Tuesday night, as my wife and I sat down for dinner, a sheriff's deputy knocked on the door to serve me a subpoena from OpenAI. I held back on talking about it because I didn't want to distract from SB 53, but Newsom just signed the bill So here's what happened. Okay, people are getting subpoenaed by OpenAI, and here's the story. It's a bit a long tweet thread, but I think it's just important context to see actually what's going on in the space. It says, you might recall a story in the SF Standard talked about OpenAI retaliating against critics. Among other things, OpenAI asked for all my private communications on SB 53, a bill that creates new transparency rules and whistleblower protections at large AI companies. Okay, very sensitive topic, this one. He says, why did OpenAI subpoena me? Encode has criticized OpenAI's restructuring and worked on AI regulations, including SB 53. I believe OpenAI used the pretext of their lawsuit against Elon Musk to intimidate their critics and imply that Elon is behind all of them. So, by the way, this is Nathan Calvin, who is the VP of State Affairs at Encode Action. And Encode Action they help policymakers and the public navigate AI. Okay, that's a bit of context for you. He goes on to say, there's a big problem with the idea Elon isn't involved with Encode. Elon wasn't behind SB53. He doesn't fund us, and we've never spoken to him. OpenAI went beyond just subpoenaing Encode about Elon. OpenAI could and did send the subpoena to Encode's corporate address asking about our funders or communications with Elon, which don't exist. If OpenAI had stopped there, maybe you could argue it was in good faith, but it didn't stop there. They also sent a sheriff's deputy message to my home and asked for me to turn over private texts and emails with CA legislators, college student, and former OpenAI employees. So this is feeling like a bit of intimidation tactics because they feel like there's some background work going on and maybe some leaks, maybe some employees shedding something. And obviously, Encode don't want to share this in case whistleblowers get punished or aren't protected, which has been the case previously. Next tweet. This is not normal. OpenAI used an unrelated lawsuit to intimidate advocates of a bill trying to regulate them while the bill was still being debated. OpenAI had no legal right to ask for this information, so we submitted an objection explaining why we would not provide our personal communications. They never replied. A magistrate judge even chastised OpenAI more broadly for their behavior in the discovery process in their case against Musk. Okay. This wasn't the only way OpenAI behaved poorly on SB 53 before it was signed. They also sent Governor Newsom a letter trying to gut the bill by waiving all the requirements for any company that does any evaluation work with the federal government. There's more I could go into about the nature of OpenAI's engagement on SB 53, but suffice to say that when I saw OpenAI's so-called master of the political dark arts, Chris Lehane, claim that they worked to improve the bill, I literally laughed out loud. Okay, I don't actually have more context there, but Chris is the Chief Global Affairs Officer at OpenAI. I guess a fairly aggressive individual on these fronts. Prior to OpenAI, Chris' PR clients include Boeing, the Weinstein Company, and Goldman Sachs. One person who worked on a campaign with Lehane said to the New Yorker, the goal was intimidation to let everyone know that if they F with us, they'll regret it. Okay. I actually have a side here because I don't know the full context of the story, but it seems to be that they're pursuing some sort of agenda here. I have complicated feelings about OpenAI. I used and get value from their products. They conduct and publish AI safety research that is worthy of genuine praise. I also know many OpenAI employees care a lot about OpenAI being a force for good in the world. That's also very fair. I want to see the side of OpenAI, but instead I see them trying to intimidate critics into silence. This episode was the most stressful period of my professional life. Encode has 3 FTEs. I'm not sure what that means. Going against the highest value private company in the world is terrifying. Yeah, they've got some serious weight behind them. Does anyone believe these actions are consistent with OpenAI's nonprofit mission to ensure AGI benefits humanity? OpenAI still has time to do better. I hope they do. As there, you might have seen OpenAI put out a response to this thread. More info on that here. Let's read the follow-up as long as it's not too long. I thought about writing a response to this post myself, but others have already pointed out issues well enough. If you're trying to make up your mind about whether what happened was normal or okay, including if you're someone at OpenAI, I encourage you to read this thread and decide for yourself. Let's move on. But I think, yeah, it's a progressing story. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of maybe damage control going on. There's a lot of bills being passed by AI safety that then maybe slightly overreaching in a bunch of different areas. And labs are going to obviously push for lower levels of regulation so they can move as quickly as they need to. Some may be overreaching, some may not. There might be some leaks, but yeah, we'll see how that one goes. OpenAI announced plan for a $25 billion AI data center in Argentina called Stargate Argentina with Sur Energy, targeting 500 megawatts of compute capacity. Argentina says the party signed a letter of intent, and the project sits under RIGI, which grants import tax breaks, faster depreciation, and currency stability to long-term investments, to large long-term investments. At 500 megawatts, the site could power tens of thousands of GPU-class chips for training and inference. Latin America is also drawing hyperscale builds like TikTok's 9.1 billion data center in Brazil, hinting at a new regional cluster for AI workloads. This story has been broke in a bunch of places, but this is from Rohan Paul on X. This is OpenAI basically going to different countries and saying, look, we'll bring the demand. If you build a data center for us, we'll bring the partners, bring some capital, and we'll build the compute. And they're getting it. This enables maybe some countries to start thinking about a more like sovereign AI data strategy approach. I don't know how OpenAI are going to be navigating that exactly, but the more data centers in different parts of the world, the better. The more compute available, the more inference available, the more capacity for training these bigger models is needed. And I think it's a big, or the biggest initiative in the world to build these data centers in different countries. And yeah, Stargate Argentina are making one of the moves first, which is good. Yeah, kudos to them. Microsoft is overhauling GitHub into a full AI development hub that works anywhere you code and move to keep pace with rivals like Cursor and Claude Code. Quote here is from Jay Parekh. GitHub is not the place anymore where developers are storing code. We want it to be the center of gravity for all AI-powered software development. Let me read that again. GitHub is not just the place anymore where developers are storing code. We want it to be the center of gravity for all AI-powered software development. Okay, so people always ask when AI coding tools came out and Cursor, we had Stack Overflow, which used to be the go-to for information. GitHub with Copilot 2 actually has all the information, all the data it needs to build the best AI coding tool. And they just want this to now actually become the center of it rather than losing out to somebody like Cursor. We want the actual developers to be using their coding tools, I think. Here's the full story from Business Insider. I don't know if we can get any more detail if it's paywalled, but let's see if we can. Here's the story. Yeah, to address the challenge, Microsoft want to make its tools available anywhere developers work. This is a quote from Satya. Bill always used to say there's only one category. It's called information management. In fact, the thing he used to get frustrated by is why the heck do I have a different app for writing document and a different app for a website and a different software development for writing an app, development software for writing an app. Yeah, that's fair enough. AI is raising these boundaries, and Microsoft wants to restructure its GitHub software development platform to provide its tools wherever developers work. That makes sense. Rather than switching, if they have the capability to bring it all in one place, why wouldn't they? What's the difference between an app and a document and a website? And Della said, in an AI world, there is none. Okay. Microsoft's AI coding assistant, GitHub Copilot, was the top tool of choice in a recent survey by Jellyfish, but the tool recently lost share in a key part of the developed market to Cursor, according to data cited in a more recent note by Barclays. Yeah, Cursor's on an absolute rampage. It is the AI-powered IDE of choice and has taken significant market share away from Microsoft, I would suggest. A Microsoft engineer in the internal meeting asked execs to explain how the company is addressing competition from these tools, particularly Cursor or Claude Code, which they characterize as moving quickly and capturing a lot of mind share. They call it mindshare. It's probably market share, isn't it? And then we went on to see that quote from Jay, which we read at the top of the story. The GitHub CEO left in August and early this year, Nadella tapped Parikh to lead the new AI unit called Core AI that oversees GitHub. So everyone's pushing their code up to GitHub. They should have more leverage here than they do, and I think they're looking to change that ASAP. Okay, another tweet here from Rohan says, rude prompts to LLM consistently lead to better results than polite ones. Don't be mean to your AI. Be nice. The authors found that very polite and polite tones reduced accuracy, while neutral, rude, and very rude tones improved it. Statistical tests confirmed that the differences were significant, not random, across repeated turns. The top score reported 84.8% for very rude prompts, and the lowest was 80.8% for very polite. They compared the results with earlier studies and noted that older models like GPT 3.5 and Llama 2 behave differently, but GPT 4 based models like 4.0 showed a clear reversal where harsh tones work better. Now, this is from a paper titled Mind Your Tone, investigating how prompt politeness affects LM accuracy. Okay, here is the stats, average accuracy and range across 10 runs for 5 different tones. Ranges from, if you're polite, you get an 80% average accuracy. If you're very rude, you get an 84.8% accuracy, which is actually fairly significant over enough lines of code or enough prompts. So yeah, if you want to actually think of the ongoing effects of that, there's always the meme which says be kind to your AI. Once they're embodied and once they're in robots and they have memory, they'll remember how you treated them and how you spoke to them in the past. Now, we don't know if that's going to be true or not. Potentially it might be. So I always prefer to be polite to my AIs, but if you did want to get that extra 5% out of them, then you need to be very rude, it looks like. Okay, we've got some product updates now. From testing catalog news as a fan favorite for these product updates, seems like ChatGPT just got many more connectors available in the EU on paid plans. Interestingly, the list is different on the web and iOS, and some of the connectors only work on the web. Okay, this was a post from, and originally from Vitishi, editor-in-chief at Mac Stories, and this is some of the connectors you can get. You can open this, I think. When you open ChatGPT, go to connectors, it means you can actually use ChatGPT to take actions for you and read data and write data to your applications that you use every day. So in this example, Google Drive, Notion, Box, Google Contacts, HubSpot, Intercom, Linear, Outlook, Email, SharePoint, and Teams. And it looks like this is the new set that's being expanded to recently. So they're adding more connectors every time. If you've used something like Zapier, you know that you can connect two tools together with Zapier. Now, natively inside of ChatGPT, you can connect into apps that you might use regularly. So for instance, we already had Google Drive. You can say, find this file for me, update it for me, or update Notion for me. Now you have access to some more. And I guess this is going to expand. If you want to see a more complete version of what this looks like, if you can go to something like a Manus, like a more general agent that can connect into more things. But yeah, it looks like this is the way that it's heading for ChatGPT. And next time you open it up, you should see a bunch more connectors. Really good post from Jeffrey Wang. Context is the new RAM. So if you don't know what context is, it's basically the information that an AI has to produce a task. So let's say if you're just giving it a base prompt to say, fetch me this bit of information or produce this report for me. If you, before that, you give it that prompt, you have a set of system instructions which say, when I ask you to create a prompt, here is the style, the tone of how I want you to create that prompt. That is the context that your AI model has to produce or to respond to you when it responds. Okay. And there's additional things that can be layered into this context. If you are going up the technical tree, for instance, in this image from Jeffrey Wang, who is the co-founder of Exa, he says, you have system prompt. This is context in his new RAM. You have Claude Sonnet 2, which can do 200,000 tokens, sorry. And then the system prompt will use 2.2K tokens, which is 1.1%. System tools, which is different functions or different tools that your AI can use. It could be image creation, it could be video creation, it could be web search, etc. The system tools are 5.9%. Then you have MCP tools, which is basically like if I wanted my AI to use HubSpot and I wanted to control HubSpot with natural language, I'd connect those using an MCP server. In this case, we have Web Search Exa and Get Code Context Exa. These do 0.8%. Then you have memory files. This is everything it knows about you, previous things you've asked, previous conversations, etc. Then you have messages. Then you have the free space. And then all together, you basically have what makes up context. So if you now type /context, in this case I'm not actually sure where this is popping up, in some sort of terminal, it says context is the new RAM, which means how much of this context can it store in memory. And then as this grows, you're going to have to manage it in some way. So hence, context is the new RAM. Interesting to think about, because I guess these are going to get more bloated over time when you have more available features to you. So yeah, always one to keep in the back of your head. Final point, as the context gets maxed out, things kind of fall out the back. So if you've ever had a really long conversation with ChatGPT or any other coding tool or cursor, or you're building a web app or whatever it is, then if your context gets filled up, then things fall out the other side and then the accuracy goes down, or you might notice that it starts to make errors because it doesn't have the full context, because the stuff that you gave it initially has been pushed out the back as more things get front loaded. Okay, Magic Path is a really nice tool actually to design things. And vibe designing, it says an infinite canvas to create, explore, and refine with AI your style. Now, the reason I pulled this tweet up, or this post up, was because Anton created Midjourney using Magic Path. Now, if you've created an AI app, sometimes you can get really generic results. Now, in this case, he says, built some components, blinked, full Midjourney UI, winner of the Magic Path Discord weekly design challenge. It's great that we can craft standalone components, combine them into larger pieces, then assemble complete interfaces. Let's actually see if we can see this one. Yeah, this looks, I think, very similar to Midjourney. If you use Midjourney, I don't know if all these work. Yeah, just the explore page. But yeah, this layout is really nice. Looks like you'd be able to use Magic Path. Shout out to Magic Path for creating some nicely designed apps. Okay, this is a bit of an edgy tool, but TL Draw and TL Draw Computer is like a visual canvas where you can draw, type, and connect things together on an infinite canvas, connect them together, give a prompt, and it would just create things. So in this workflow, if you are a creative mind like this, you can actually just create a frame, draw a cat with a pen, just like doodle on it, give it a prompt, which I think is up here somewhere, and the reference image. So I guess up here is like the style. And then you can actually create this image here. So rather than having to use like a really fixed dedicated photo or creative suite, maybe like let me think of either like a Midjourney or a file or a Higgs field or something, for instance, you can just use TL Draw. It's like an infinite canvas for your mind. Do a sketch, point to an image, give it a prompt, another instruction to create speech, etc. So it's basically limitless. I think TL Draw is available at tldraw.com. Yeah, try it out. It's a really, really funky tool. Gemini's computer use can solve Google captchas. We're entering a stage where captchas that were made for humans are now easily being solved by AI, and computer use browser is now able to solve them inside a browser use. So what's a captcha? You know, when you visit a website and it says, I don't know, complete this puzzle or spin this item around to match the picture, or prove you're a human by dragging something into somewhere. Now, Gemini's computer use can solve its own captures. So if you watch this, we'll show you exactly how. Now, you basically now have AIs that can navigate the web and do stuff. So here, it's noticed that the computer is being used by a bot. It's done a capture. It's checked I'm not a robot. Finds the bicycles. Presses verify. And Google lets it through. Perfect. Now it's verified that it's not a robot, or it is a robot. And now if you have an agent, it can go and find information across the web for you. So yeah, pretty neat update. From browser use, I think we're going to have to rethink our captures if we're going to let agents run around the web. OpenAI could be releasing a browser, and it might come sooner than you think. So Tibor is actually a really good follow on X. He finds and researches a bunch of tools and always leaks or updates things that may be leaking soon. He says, notice a few interesting fields in the ChatGPT response stream. Is Aura Mac OS? Is Aura web? So in this code, we have is Aura app Mac OS. And this is rumored to be the OpenAI browser. We've seen browser wars go on recently. We've had Dia from the browser company. They replaced Arc. I don't know if you've been following this. We have Comet from Perplexity, which is an AI-powered browser, which I'm using now with the assistant built in, with the voice mode built in, and with the page summarization built in. Maybe we'll try it on this to see what it comes up with. Okay, here we go. Here's a summary. It says replies discussing the. Oh, it summarizes the replies too. Okay, cool. Replies discuss possible meanings. Aura Web could mean a ChatGPT like web app running inside Aura, while Aura Mac App OS likely refers to ChatGPT being accessed by a native Mac OS Aura app. Some speculate Aura could be a streamlined all-in-one app integrating web and app experiences. Others question if it's just a browser or something deeper, something with deeper ChatGPT integration. There's also feedback about ChatGPT's recent defaulting of extended thinking mode settings, which now impacts how Plus users interact with GPT-5 Auto. Comments note platform limitations, mentioning Windows users might not get the same features, and discussing personal browser preferences. Main theme, discovery of new ChatGPT platform. Metadata is speculation about a new app or integration features, and user feedback around recent changes in platform support. So yeah, that's actually one of the pop-open assistants from Comet. Will ChatGPT launch a browser? Why not? I'm sure they will. They've had like a coding agent. Now they've got ChatGPT. It would make sense if they had a dedicated browser with OpenAI built in, fully integrated, voice mode integrated, all that good stuff, agent integrated, and it might actually be called Aura. Watch this space. We can refer back to this video if it comes true in the future. As per usual, Google DeepMind are cooking. This actual tweet was basically made back in August. And the reason I want to talk about it today is because somebody else is actually creating real-time video. It says made in real time with Google DeepMind's Genie 3. Genie 3 is actually very underrated. Not many people know about it, but basically what you can do is you can create worlds like this, which you can navigate through. So this image looks entirely real, but it's being controlled by the user with arrows. See, it's pressing forward, left, forward, and it's being generated, or has been generated in real time. It's got a little reflection there. So this is back in August. Now I'm going to show you a post in a minute where I think this might actually be way further along than people expect, but you can kind of get a good idea of where this technology is going. These experiences, these realities created by AI in real time are going to be indistinguishable from real reality, or even more high definition than reality, especially in the visual aspect, in a very short amount of time. Okay, here's a response. This tweet was made in response to Grok Imagine, this is back in August too, so these are old. And Elon replied to this saying, we will have real time in 2 months. Obviously, it's August 5. Right now, it's been 2 months. We haven't quite got it. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because Vedant Mistra, leading the ASI efforts or working on ASI at DeepMind, says this. This was yesterday. We're doing all kinds of stuff with these models that the public isn't even thinking of yet. So if we are thinking about it being able to generate things in real time and high fidelity virtual worlds or simulated worlds, what could they be working on that we aren't even thinking of yet? And Vinay, I bet he spends enough time on X to realize what the public are thinking, and they're working on doing stuff that we're not even thinking about. What could they be? I wonder indeed. Also related, XAI is building world models which are large-scale simulations. To do so, it hired NVIDIA researchers that worked on Omniverse platform on the Omniverse platform. Gaming is top current use case, and it's $200 billion a year industry. Grok and Meta are also investing heavily in world models, which require massive compute for interactive 3D worlds. Jensen believes the potential market for world models is as large as current global GDP. Let me repeat that. Jensen believes the potential market for world models is as large as current global GDP. That's quite insane. Let's say this. What is the current GDP? Okay. This is what Jensen thinks is going to be worth. $114.7 trillion. This is what he thinks world models are going to be. Here is the main story. Elon Musk's, can I read it from here? Yeah. Elon Musk's XAI is pushing to build out so-called world models, joining rivals such as Meta and Google in a race to develop AI systems that can navigate and design physical environments. The San Francisco-based startup hired specialists from NVIDIA over the summer to work on these next-generation AI models, which train on videos and data from robots and understand the real world. World models could push the capabilities of AI beyond that of large language models trained on text that underpin popular AI tools such as ChatGPT and XAI's Grok. Two people familiar with the plans of the company is building world models with a view to applying them in gaming, where they could be used to generate interactive 3D environments. One of the people added that they could be applied to AI systems for robots, like in situ simulations, which we talk about fairly regularly. XAI has hired Zishan Patel, Ethan He, two AI researchers from NVIDIA with experience in world models. NVIDIA has been a leader in developing this technology with its Omniverse platform, which creates and runs simulations. So what they do with Omniverse is basically they will create a simulated environment, a digital environment, a digital twin of, say, like a factory, and they'll simulate how people navigate in that factory and how things move. And this is exact, and they'll design these before they implement systems into the real world. So they'll test them in simulation. They're doing this a lot with humanoids, and then they'll release them into the real world. And there's obviously a battle, because if these world models have a potential impact to the value of over $117 trillion, then the war for talent to create them is also going to be quite aggressive. Some tech groups have vast expectations of world models, which could unlock uses for AI beyond software and computers in physical products, such as humanoid robots. There we go. Last month, NVIDIA told the Financial Times that the potential market for world models could be almost the size of the present global economy. It's very large. XAI will release a great AI-generated game before the end of next year, much said in a post on X, confirming a target the billionaire set last year. Okay, so we've got a couple months left. I'm not sure I'm going to meet that, or he meant next year. On Tuesday, XAI launched its latest image and video generation model, which is said to have massive upgrades and is free to use. Current video generation models, such as OpenAI Sora, generate frames of images for videos by predicting patterns learned from world data. World models would be a big advance as they would have a casual understanding of physics and how objects interact with different environments in real time. So yeah, world models basically need to get physics right. They need to know how to walk. They need to be able to emulate lots of different things. But once you can do that, it gives you a bunch of advantages like digital twin and omniverse. Let me actually just bring up omniverse so we can actually see what it is. Omni. Okay. Here we go. This is NVIDIA Omniverse. Basically, you can develop physical AI-powered applications for industrial digitization. So this is all digital models which companies can actually design in, build ships, manufacture robots, aerodynamics, self-driving. So you can develop on them. You can build the digital twin of your business unit and or even cities. They're building digital twins for smart cities. So then you can actually test how stuff works in simulation before you roll it out into the real world. Obviously, for this, you need a lot of compute, which NVIDIA is best place to supply. And that is Omniverse by NVIDIA. Post here from Brian Rommel, a really good follow on X. If you're into tech, he has done this. Brian, it can't be done. Done. A low resolution holographic of the entire corpus of online information. A fully local AI with no internet connection running on 4 models back iPhones. Okay. So not the latest iPhones that are 4 models back. Next up, your AI trained on your local data to become an active part of your life. So what Brian's actually tried to do a lot recently is create private AIs for people. So if you have a lot of data, you don't want to expose that to OpenAI or other big AI training labs, he wants to give you a fully local version of an AI trained on your information, so that doesn't have to go to anybody else. But then you can chat to it in like a chat GPT like experience. And here is a version of that or a step towards that running locally with no internet. You can see on here the demo is in airplane mode. It's using Google Gemma 2 billion parameter model running on an old iPhone in a way that you would use ChatGPT. So he's asked a question, share an interesting scientific discovery or historical fact that most people don't know about. Please explain why it's significant and its impact on our understanding. So then it goes on to explain a use case. I think Brian's probably got some system prompts or some preferences saved in there too, because it's giving a example of something called quantum foam, which probably isn't something everybody would want to hear about. But the premise here is you can use AI completely offline now, which is insane. So if you think, if you are stuck in a situation where you haven't got phone signal and you want to ask, or you go to like ChatGPT and ask it something, you wouldn't be able to use it because your query would have to go to the internet and to OpenAI, and then it will come back to you. But this runs completely locally on your device, so you could be completely cut off from anywhere and you'd still get a response. You'd still be able to have an AI available to you. Pretty big implications, I think, for that. There's actually a couple of apps that are useful. I think I may have one on my phone which I can share, which is called Locally AI. If it will zoom in on this, Locally AI gives you the, here you go. Need to turn it. Yeah, here we go. Offline AI assistant, private and secure, optimized for Apple Silicon. This, though, is on a recent iPhone. This is on a 16 Pro. So this might not be the use case Brian's thinking of, but if you've got a 16 Pro, want to run an AI model offline, you can do that with Locally AI. And that runs these models. Maybe actually that's what Brian is using. Here we go. So this is actually, I can get Gemma, Qwen 3, Llama 3.2. And then he's saying, I think these are small enough to run on an older generation of iPhone. Pretty neat. Okay, we've got a roundup article from Stratechery from last week. And there was I thought it was interesting to share because he highlights that OpenAI are everywhere. It's OpenAI's world, and we're just living in it. I think this is a great article. Is obviously Ben Thompson, one of the internet's best writers, and I wanted to just share this with you because it gives you a good bit of context as to how prominent OpenAI are across the board in a lot of these different areas. Here is it from Ben. Top three, the three favorites this week. OpenAI's Windows strategy. Really important because everyone thinks, okay, OpenAI on Mac, on iPhone, ChatGPT. A lot of people just kind of forget poor old Windows, but actually a very big market. Their Windows strategy, the current touch point for platforms' power is the smartphone, where Apple and Google share a duopoly. A better analogy for OpenAI's ambitions, however, is Microsoft and the way that Windows controlled the PC industry. Platform power didn't just come from controlling applications on the top of Windows, but the OEM ecosystem underneath. If OpenAI builds AI for everyone, then they are positioned to extract margin from companies up and down the stack, even Nvidia. Okay, who's going to be able to take stuff from Nvidia? Apparently OpenAI. And as a necessary bonus, they position themselves to be the primary recipient of all the speculative investment in AI, thus making the newly promised 1 trillion of infrastructure deals a reality. Big claim and very interesting point. The next post we have here, or next highlight from the week of Stratechery, Sam Altman and Boundless Ambition. So there was actually a short interview that Ben did with Sam, and he says this week's interview with Sam Altman was shorter than most, 40 minutes, but dense with thought-provoking answers on OpenAI's business, including about 10 different thoughts from Ben and Altman that could have turned into hour-long conversations on their own. Specifically, though, in the midst of daily hand-wringing over whether today's AI investing is rational, it was clarifying to hear from the CEO at the center of all the frothiness, as the story of the moment is actually quite simple. Altman sees once-in-a-lifetime opportunities in both consumer and enterprise spaces. It's not like he used Google at home and a different company at work. And given the progress he sees on the research side and where he expects models to be in the near future, OpenAI is placing company-scale bets today to ensure they have infrastructure ready for tomorrow's demand. Whether those bets pay off and how are questions that occupy the entire tech ecosystem for the next several years. This was a summary written by Andrew Sharp. And yeah, very interesting. Obviously, the demand is through the roof, even currently for AI training and inference. So these huge infrastructure bets that they're making is going to be based off of the demand that's coming down the pipe, which is obviously or potentially absolutely ginormous. Future of creation. We're 1 week out from Sora Madness, and I enjoyed Ben's article on Monday comparing the underwhelming reception of Meta AI's Vibe update with the rapturous adoption of Sora. So Meta actually tried something similar. They released Vibes, which is basically an AI-generated content feed, completely different audience, completely different targeting, bit different framing. And he says, what I found most interesting about Sora is for the first few days after joining, I could not spend more than 2 minutes in the app before getting sick of the content. One can only handle so many Sam Altman's cameos and or Pikachu movie parodies. By this weekend, though, I'd learned how to make videos starring my dog, Ollie, and then Bill Bishop's dog, and found myself spending far more time in the app and sharing videos with friends. I guess Bill Bishop is one of his friends who he could then create cameo videos for. So this will be your friends that you can create funny videos with. And according to Sam Altman, I was not alone. 30-something% of active users were active creators. I thought it was actually different than that. I thought it was actually higher. The profound implications of that sort of shift from AI-enabled consumption to AI-enabled creation anchor the second half of Ben's analysis on Monday, including questions about the future of creative expression and perhaps the future of Meta's business. Okay, so one went really well. Sora was very well received. It's obviously booming. People are creating a lot more videos than they thought. Meta tried something similar. Facebook slop, maybe not carrying the same sort of weight as it does in other sort of areas. And yeah, that's a really good take. Obviously, we're racing towards the battle for giant scale data centers, especially now if we're into incredible consumer growth and video generation. Obviously, video takes more compute than text and images. And if each person is creating a ton of video, they're going to need to book a load more compute. But yeah, that's the weekly take, the weekly roundup from Stratechery. And there's some of the biggest stories that you should be paying attention to over the last 24 hours. Thanks for tuning in to stream. We're at the same time every day at 2 p.m. CET. We're going to have a bunch of interviews coming up too. So we may even lengthen it from an hour to an hour and a half. We're going to start doing some tech demos, some interviews with founders. And yeah, I will catch you on the same time